Welcome to the EQ Fit podcast. Our mission is to equip people to prosper in every aspect of their life. Whether you're at home or in the workplace, we explore practical ways of improving success, satisfaction, finding balance, and building enjoyable and beneficial relationships. Thank you for joining us. What a week. Ever have one of those weeks where you just go, wish that week didn't happen? Well, in one short week, we've had two major clients unexpectedly put everything on hold. Talk about a gut punch. And that's what I want to talk about today, because life is full of gut punches. Disappointments, loss, failure, mistakes, conflict, comes in all different shapes and sizes. The reasons that these two clients decided to put everything on hold was very different, not the same thing. One had an unexpected shortfall in revenue. The other has operational issues that have pulled them so far down into the weeds that they are totally in reactive mode. The funny thing about that is, the work that I do with these clients, they need even more now than they ever have before. But the reality is, when you get a gut punch, which these clients experienced before me, gut punches can be cascades, by the way. It happened to them first, and now it's happened to me. But the reality is, when that happens, it's very hard to get past the emotions and get to a more productive mindset. And that is very, very natural. So back to me. How am I doing? Honestly, not great. It's taking all of my years of practicing emotional intelligence and building up those skills and those strengths to really navigate all of this. And granted, it's just the first week. But I want to walk you through that. I figured this didn't happen without a reason. And I want to walk you through how I process something like this. And I hope that gives you insight into how important EQ skills are, emotional intelligence skills, in how we live our lives, do our work, navigate challenges and changes, and even gut punches. So when we navigate the different challenges that come up in our lives, when circumstances bring you to your knees, what do? I just want you to answer that question. When circumstances bring you to your knees, what do? Well, for me, and maybe for you, as long as you're on your knees, praying is a good start. I know that's what I do. But then it's time to get up and to start practicing competencies of emotional intelligence so we can navigate those emotions. Specifically, manage our emotions so they don't derail us or keep us stuck. Do I know what the future is going to look like? No. Do I know how I'm going to replace that revenue in my business? No, not right now. But I know, and I'm confident, that what I bring to people has huge value. I mean, it's transformative. It will change lives. So I'm not going to give up on that. That's actually even more of a calling than it is just a job or just some work to do. So, time to get up, get started, navigate those emotions. And you know what? It's okay if you have to take some time to process all of it. I know I need that. This week has been a week of processing. And it wasn't just one gut punch. There was one on Monday, another one on Friday, another one on Saturday. So there was this sequence of events. And isn't that the way it happens? When it rains, it pours. That's the old saying. And it's really true. Is it anything that I'm doing wrong? Not really. All of the circumstances that created what's going on, I have zero control over. But I do have control over how I respond to it. And that's what's important. So I want to walk you through some steps that I take. Call it a pattern if you want to. Recognize patterns is an important competency of emotional intelligence. And it's there so that we don't just get so stuck and so tangled up in our web of emotions and everything that's going on that there's no way to get out of that. Recognizing patterns is really important. So here's some steps that I've taken and a pattern that I've created that helps me. Maybe some of this will help you when you reach those times when you feel like you have one of those gut punch events. So, as I said earlier, if you're a person of faith, start with prayer. I truly believe it makes a difference. Second, stop. Just stop. Realize that while this may be overwhelming in the short term, it is not the end of the world, and better days are ahead. Number 3, start by making a list of things you can immediately do to move forward. Who can you talk to? What can you do that helps in the short term? And I think staying focused on the short term is important here. There are times we need to think long-term and strategic, but the reality is in times like this, when life throws an unexpected curveball and it catches you in the gut, so to speak, I think staying short-term focused is a good idea. Next, use this time to think outside the box. What new possibilities might be available? A lot of times for me, when something like this happens, it's a pivot point. And thinking outside the box, taking the blinders off and looking around, allows me to see things that maybe I wouldn't have seen otherwise. Here's another one. You have 3 primary resources. So what are they? They're time, focus, and energy. Those are things that you control. Make sure you're using them very well every day. Next, take breaks during the day to let your mind rest and do something positive. Take a walk, clean up a mess, listen to some music, meditate on positive things. Do something positive and allow yourself time to process, to think through things. Give your brain a chance to rest. Here's the next step. Create small goals that you will feel good about achieving. It doesn't all have to be big stuff. You can't fix everything all at once. You can probably come up with some other steps for yourself. I'm sure we're all a little different, and the goal here is to think through what are the things that I can do now that will add to positive momentum. If you really want to dive deep into how to better manage your emotions for the best results and outcomes, there's a link on our website. Go there, look for our store, and in that store there's a course called Understanding Your Own EQ. It is a foundational course in really understanding what this EQ stuff is all about, what it can do for you, what the skills are, how to apply them. It is very, very practical. And you can just check out the course in the store, read what I've written about the course, and see if it's for you. I'm not trying to sell you the course right now, But I can tell you that course was built out of my experience, my research, my hard work over the last decade or more of really diving deep into emotions, emotional intelligence, neuroscience, and how those things impact our lives. And it's made a huge difference for me. So how can EQ skills help? I started talking about this gut punch and how to survive it. It can come in so many different forms. It could be loss of a job, could be loss of clients, like mine was. It could be the loss of a loved one. It could be loss of control. Maybe it's a failure. Maybe it's a bad diagnosis. Maybe it's making big mistakes or conflict. And the list just goes on and on of what it might look like. So how can something like EQ, emotional intelligence, how can those skills help? Well, let me be more specific. I want to speak from my current situation and how I'm navigating my circumstances, but I want to relate this to what you might experience in your life. I've already explained my situation. Now I want to explain the path I'm taking to work through this. I'm going to list an EQ skill and then tell you how that skill is helping me. First is navigate emotions. This skill and competency of emotional intelligence, which actually falls in the realm of self-management or self-regulation, it helps me to stay away from major pitfalls that can often happen when dealing with strong emotions. So what are those pitfalls? Allowing emotions to keep us stuck, dwelling on emotions until they become a repeated cycle that eats up available energy, focus, and time, overexpressing or suppressing our emotions. There's a healthy balance of sharing the emotions in a way that is not destructive or damaging to yourself and others. And that's really important, because if you don't share those in a good way and you're trying to either suppress them, keep them under pressure, which we know what happens then when we exceed the pressure limit, it's going to come out and not in a way you want to. Or we just express it to everybody and we drive people away. And that can happen during these gut punch times in our lives. So taking emotions and the energy they provide and repurposing those for more productive efforts and better outcomes. That's what navigating emotions is. That's where I start when something like this happens. Number 2, this is where I go next. Recognize patterns. I've already mentioned this competency. This is a competency of self-awareness. I know my patterns because I've spent years working on strengthening the ones that help me and changing the ones that don't help me. When I experience a gut punch situation, there are several patterns that immediately come to mind for me. Some of these are old and more negative patterns that I have changed, that I know to not even start down that pathway. Kind of put a firewall up that says, nope, not going there. Others are more positive patterns that I know will help me carry through the immediate impact and put me on a good path. That's what I want to do. I want forward movement. Those patterns are probably similar in each of us, but also probably unique to each of us. So there may be common ground there for all of us, but our own experiences and lives and everything about us has a uniqueness to it as well. So where do I go next? What is the next emotional intelligence competency or skill that I deploy at a time like this? Well, it's emotional literacy. This is about understanding the emotions people are having, so I understand the emotions I'm having and how they're impacting me. Why is that important? Emotions, especially strong emotions, can easily hinder our ability to think at higher levels. Problem solving, critical thinking, decision making, logical thinking can all be negatively impacted by strong emotions if we allow that to happen. But if we don't know the emotions we're having or the complex group of emotions that are making up our emotional environment, and we don't understand how those are impacting us, it's really hard to get forward movement and to deal with these issues, to navigate those emotions for more productive outcomes. Knowing what emotions you're having and how they impact you allows you to better navigate those situations by using the more positive patterns that I've discussed. And that's important. And here are two more skills of emotional intelligence that I have kind of put together that I think are very important. It's optimism, practicing optimism, and intrinsic motivation, that internal battery that drives us and that gives us the energy that we need. These two EQ skills tend to take the biggest hits when you experience a gut punch event. Here's the key to these important competencies. You have to store them up ahead of time. I'm going to say that again. You have to store those up, build up your resources in those areas ahead of time, ahead of the gut punch moment. It's not natural to display optimism when something negative happens. I think we can all agree on that. However, if we built up the internal resource of optimism, you will be able to draw on it when you need it. The same is true for intrinsic motivation, motivation that comes out of your values, your purpose, and your beliefs. Intrinsic motivation is critical in this type of situation. Why? Because it is the source of energy you draw on to move you forward. During these times, external motivators are simply not working very well. So we need a good internal battery that will give us the energy we need to move forward. There's a saying that I use quite a bit that I think explains what I'm trying to get across. The internal resources that you have built are what will be available to you to face the next challenge or take advantage of the next opportunity. The cure for the gut punch. Honestly, part of it's time. How much time do you need to process it? How much time do you need to get in a better place, in a better mindset, where you can deal with the challenge, where you can deal with the loss? Some of it's simply time, but there's a lot of it that could be accelerated through the development of emotional intelligence skills. And that's what I'm talking about today. It's never a comfortable time when you experience something that has such a negative impact, especially when it comes out of the blue. It just comes from nowhere, and all of a sudden, it's almost like your whole world has been turned upside down. The cure is based in key areas of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-management, self-direction. The amount of time we choose to live in the detrimental emotions will determine how long it takes to start moving forward and to really get some traction. Honestly, it's taken me most of this week to get to a better place. It's one of those times when I know better days are ahead. I know that things are going to turn out okay. I don't know what it looks like right now, but I have faith that that's what's going to happen. And I also know and have great confidence that what I bring has great value to people. It really makes a difference in people's lives, in their work, in their leadership, in their teams, in their organizations, in everything that I touch. And I am convicted to continue to bring that to people, even in the face of adversity or these gut punch moments that happen. Yes, I did say something. I said the amount of time we choose to live in the detrimental emotions. This is a scientific fact. The initial emotional impact is fairly short-lived, but we can choose to experience that emotion or that set of emotions over and over, which creates a cycle of emotions that keep you in the same place. Now, please hear my intent in this. Some gut punch moments are more impactful than others. The loss of a loved one is massive because I've lost my oldest son, and I remember what that felt like. So please hear my intent in this. I'm not saying just get over it. There are times when our emotional environment will be heavily impacted by great loss. Will EQ skills help in these times? Yes, they'll help. But each of us will grieve differently. And that's okay. My intent is to share what I have learned and provide some insight to a pathway that I know is going to help people. I guess that's it for now. I'm thinking of starting a new YouTube playlist about all of this I'm going through. Not sure if I'll do that or not, but it isn't that bad to let people share the journey with you. I appreciate you listening today. I know a lot of this was focused on me and what I'm going through right now. But if I was a betting man, I'll bet everybody listening to this has got something like this going on in their lives, or they know someone else who does. And if I can share my experience and what I've learned through developing my EQ skills that will help somebody else, that's what I'm here for. Thank you for joining us for this episode. If you have any questions about this week's episode, or maybe a suggestion for future episodes you'd like us to explore, please contact us through our website at eqfit.org. For more information and inspiration, connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube at EQFit.